Barbadians rise to assist the hurricane-ravaged Bahamas.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC Newsnight, starting now.
This segment of Weekend Newsnight, brought to you by Sagicor, wise financial thinking for life.
Very good evening to you with the Sunday, September 8th edition of CBC Newsnight. I'm Ryan Broom. In our top story, it's all about the Mediathon. From just after 3 this afternoon, Barbadians began showing their support for the people of the Bahamas. From children to adults to the elderly, from small businesses to medium and large companies, and from as little as $1 to several $1,000s at a time, all of them have been answering the call as part of today's Rise Again Bahamas Mediathon. Local celebrities have been among those encouraging Barbadians to pledge whatever they can as they too lent their talents to the initiative. Now, throughout the day, a dedicated rotating team of volunteers in the call center has also been busy taking calls of pledges from Barbadians who were unable to come to the Pine St. Michael studios. It was also a day when the island's media houses put aside the cloak of competition for 7 hours to rally to a common cause. Up to news time, the pledge funds had reached about $100,000, and during the telethon, Executive Director of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, or CDEMA, Ronald Jackson, talked about the scale of the impact on the ground. He said despite the devastation, Bahamas remains open for business, and he also sought to emphasize the fact that out of the more than 700 islands that make up the Bahamas, it was just 2 of them, the Abacos and Grand Bahama, that were more severely affected.
There were a number of communities that were not as impacted. The physical impact was minimal, seeming to be fairly robust construction. And then there were other communities where you had a mix of significant damage with interspersed housing stock that remained intact. And then there were communities where the entire housing stock literally obliterated, flattened.
Now, Mr. Jackson also explained why on this occasion, cash rather than items was more important to donate.
It is easier for them to purchase or procure goods there or procure out of Florida and have it shipped into the Bahamas at much shorter time and with all of the logistics arrangements taken care of therein. If we do it the other way, then there's a tremendous cost to shipping from the Eastern Caribbean. One, there's a cost to collect, to package, to sort, because when you do drives like you do get things that you do not need, and they have to be sorted, and there's a cost for that. And when it is shipped to its location, it has to be unpacked, sorted, and reshipped to Abaco or to Grand Bahama.
Several projects are on the cards for the constituency of St. George North. News of this from long-standing parliamentary representative Glenn Clark. He shared the plans during a special service at the St. George Parish Church to celebrate his silver anniversary as a member of parliament in Barbados. Ariane Phillips tells us more.
For the last 25 years, from 1994 to the present, Glenn Clark has served and has been transforming the St. George North constituency.
In 25 years, we have seen over 500 new housing solutions in St. George since 1994. A police station, agricultural market, 4 new playing fields, 3 of which has been floodlit.
And while he does not intend to hang up his boots as yet, the veteran MP has promised to do even more for the area.
I will continue to agitate for the church to provide the land for those persons who have occupied here for years. And of course, I will continue to agitate because so many women have come to me and complain about fathers not supporting their children. I will continue to agitate for that. We have to discuss with the reverends across St. George and with the stakeholders in the coming months a program to upgrade the grave sites across St. George. I heard Reverend Rogers talk about beautifying, which we will continue to do, but I think it is well known that St. George had a beautiful grave site. We have to improve it. We have to improve the derelict structures across the other Anglican churches.
And acting Prime Minister George Payne has hailed Mr. Clark's journey as a lesson for young and aspiring politicians.
I remember Glenn Clark coming years after me, and Glenn Clark telling me immediately after the 1991 election, never again will I lose an election. And Glenn was at every dogfight. Sometimes Glenn would turn up to people's weddings, people's anniversaries. I mean, don't talk about the funerals. But he wanted to be sure that he left no stone unturned in being elected as a member of parliament. And maybe this is a good lesson for the young parliamentarians.
The St. George North MP also thanked his constituents and the members of his support team for their backing throughout the years. Rianne Phillips, CBC News.
Thanks, Rianne. Well, in other news, 8 experienced legal practitioners, including the current Chief Magistrate of Barbados, have been recommended for appointment as judges in the Supreme Court. The announcement was officially made today and follows comments by both Prime Minister Mia Moore-Motley and Attorney General Dale Marshall that more judges would be appointed to the Supreme Court to help clear the backlog of cases in the court system. The 8 include Chief Magistrate Christopher Birch, Justice Rajendra Narain, Justice Francis Bell, Senior Lecturer in the Faculty of Law at the UWI Cave Hill, Jefferson Cumberbatch, Judge of the Supreme Court of Belize, Shauna Griffith, Queen's Counsel Cecil McCarthy, former Public Counsel Barry Carrington, and Queen's Counsel Cicely Chase Harding. Well, the retail prices of gasoline and diesel will increase at midnight. However, the price of kerosene will decrease. Gasoline will be adjusted from $3.78 per liter to $3.81 per liter, while diesel will rise from $2.96 per liter to $3.02 per liter. Kerosene will drop from $1.36 per liter to $1.35 per liter. This represents an increase of 3 cents per liter and 6 cents per liter for gasoline and diesel respectively, while kerosene decreases by 1 cent per liter. When the new school year begins tomorrow, some 20 schools will remain closed, according to the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training. Construction and rehabilitative works at these schools have contributed to excessive dust and the repositioning of furniture and equipment. And as such, the plants must now be industrially cleaned before students can be readmitted. It means that the following secondary schools will now resume classes on Wednesday, September 11th, and they include the Alexandra School, Grantley Adams Memorial, Frederick Smith, and Princess Margaret. Now, these following primary schools will now reopen on Monday, September 16th. The Ann Hill School, Bay Primary, Belmont Primary, Eagle Hall, Luther Thorne, Milton Lynch, St. Bartholomew, St. Giles Primary, St. John Primary, St. Margaret, St. Paul's, St. Philip, St. Stephen's Nursery, Welch's Primary, Wesley Hall Jr., and Wilkie Cumberbatch. Now, teaching and non-teaching staff are to report to their respective schools where they will be further directed by the principal. And with just hours left until the start of the 2019-2020 school year, students are being urged to respect public transport and desist from vandalizing the vehicles. That's the plea from the Public Relations Officer of the Alliance of Owners of Public Transport, Mark Haynes. Again, our Rianne Phillips has more.
Thousands of students will be entering classrooms on the first day of the Michaelmas term with new items such as uniforms and stationery. But Public Relations Officer of the Alliance of Owners of Public Transport, Mark Haynes, wants secondary school students in particular to use their new pens and pencils for taking notes at school instead of defacing minibuses and ZRs. He says what may seem like fun for students is actually an expense for PSV owners.
You can start from $1,000, $2,000 or even over. And then that cost has to be borne by the owner. That is very unfair. And that is why we think that the students should stop vandalizing the vehicles on which they travel. And they should treat that vehicle like if it were their parents' vehicle in which they would get in and they will not have vandalized, because the parents will not be happy about it.
He's also calling on parents to speak with their children and encourage them to be on their best behavior.
It is important that parents speak to their children and ask them to desist from vandalizing persons' property. This all stems from at home. it has to do with training. So the onus is on whoever's in charge of those children to try to speak to them, to urge them, to beseech them, to desist from so doing.
Mr. Haynes says the group will continue to monitor the behavior of students and seek to eliminate cases of vandalism on PSVs. Rianne Phillips, CBC News.